Welcome to the How the Heck Have You Been podcast. I'm Mark, and as the title would suggest, I just call up a bunch of people I haven't talked to forever and ask them how the heck they have been. So here's some intro music and the show. Alright, you may notice this is a long episode, and I'm not going to apologize for double the content. My guest today is Christ Hotze, and we get into all sorts of topics, although it occurred to me after editing the show that we mainly kind of focus on father figures or positive male influences, whether it was in our own fathers or, yes, of course, our band directors. So I hope you enjoy the show and the extra hour of talk. Here it is. There's that beep boop. All right. Hey, Christ Hotze. My dude.
Mark, die as I live and breathe.
We're still breathing, man. It's been 19 years.
Just barely.
How's it going, dude?
Dude, it is good. Let me get you cranked up my headphones a little bit here.
There you go. Yeah, that's a little better.
Turn on my headphones. So random question. This is just my own OCD kicking in before we start.
Do it.
From your point of view, what side of my frame is my lamp on? Like the right side of me or the left side of me?
It's on your right, my left.
So if you're looking at it, it's the left of the
Yep.
frame? Okay,
Yep.
So it's reversing for me. Okay,
Your thing is in your left hand, your jewel, whatever that is.
nice.
Yeah. Is that a jewel or is it a different brand?
It
You a brand man?
I don't know. No, it's
Something.
called the Ursa or something.
There you go. How's it going?
Dude, it is it's going. That's about
Yeah,
about as much as I can say.
we're recording on a Monday. My day's been really crazy, so I'm excited just to sit and talk to an old friend.
Dude, I know, man. It's been the Monday vibes were heavy. That's really
Yeah, yesterday I was looking at my calendar. I was like, oh, I packed a lot of stuff in there. Dang. All right, we're gonna do this. Going strong.
Sweet.
What have you been up to?
Have you hit the proverbial red button?
Yes. Yeah, we're recording.
Sweet. Awesome.
Yeah, I hit the ground running. I like to get the little tone beeping when the Google Meet opens up.
Nice.
Joe Rogan style.
Well, now that I've sufficiently made this awkward
No, it's good. It's good.
by peeling back the production curtain.
I know. The people want to see it, Chris. The people want to see
They really
it.
do. They want to see how the sausage is made.
So do you do a lot of sound music? It looks like you do. I don't know if you do a lot on the production end.
I try, like the music stuff's always kind of like stayed with me. Obviously, like life and stuff changes.
Yep.
But like right now, I'm kind of trying to do my own stuff right now. My guilty pleasures have always been like insanely heavy metal and like dance music.
Nice.
It's kind of like two opposite sides of the spectrum. So I've been fumbling around, failing at making dance music tunes lately. But yeah, that's kind of my thing. Haven't done bands in a while. So just kind of doing what I can do in my own time by myself.
Yeah.
Because
if and when you get any.
yeah, pretty much, right? Because being away from the house, 3 or 4 nights a week for like rehearsals, it's not on the cards right now.
Yep. Well, let's start there. So let's go back because you've always been. So were you playing guitar even back in junior high?
Yeah. So yeah, I was back probably right around the beginning of junior high. So a little bit after 7th grade is when I I started in like band, right? And
Yep.
her junior high band, and then shortly after that is and this is the MTV days, right? Well, MTV was starting to waver,
Man,
right? But
yeah.
it was still like a thing,
Yep.
And it was at some point around there where I was like, oh, like Fieldy from Korn is kind of cool. This bass instrument seems kind of rad. And so that's where that started. And then, the Matt Hartman and Alex Martinez trio kind of formed and coalesced right around that time. And
Nice.
that, persisted for a few years, as
That's awesome.
maybe some people remember. I don't know.
Oh yeah, they do. Carmel remembers. Lauren remembers. I think we talked about that. Y'all played at Carmel's party. Was it a birthday or Halloween party? We couldn't remember. There's been conflicting stories.
I don't remember. And that's going to be the running theme.
I'm pretty sure Halloween. Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, it's all
I think
the days.
it might have been Halloween.
I'm pretty sure it was.
Because there was Carmel's party, and then we played rest her soul, and we played we did the one in like Callan Hunt's backyard and you know, and that
Yep.
kind of thing. And then
I remember that one.
it was whatever that like event center was in Hearst, the Brookside place, or whatever that was. But yeah, those were fun times.
Did you do, because didn't LD Bell do Battle of the Bands as well? Once or twice?
It was the talent show, I believe.
Okay.
In our sophomore year. And so if I remember correctly, the other like kind of big like high school band was like Kurt Chatelaine.
Yes.
What were they called? Fozzy is what they were called.
I didn't remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Fozzy is what they were called. And this is before, Ben McCracken and his various projects took over. You know, he's doing From Parts Unknown now, which they're like a rockabilly band. They're doing really well, but I digress. Nice. Yeah, there was the talent show in sophomore year, where looking back on it, we did win, and I'll dispel with the false modesty. That was fun. It was, we had the people in the front row, and I remember specifically there was, the kind of core set of girls. They had our names written across. It was across the stomachs. We had to be appropriate,
of course.
But the culture was started early. But I look back on it now, and it was a little bit kind of capitalized on the patriotism, because I think we did like a medley or something, and in the end there was some patriotic America type song.
Yeah.
And if we remember the time,
it was 9/11, right? If that was sophomore year, it was right after 9/11.
Yeah, it was shortly after that, right? So, it was at the time we we're like, oh, it's a performance and stuff, and my dad, who was kind of helping us coaching us and kind of helping us with our live performance at the time, was like, oh, this would be a great idea. I look back on it now, it was pretty cringe. That was fun.
It was in the ether. There was no getting away from it. You might as well throw a little in there.
What's when in Rome?
Yeah. I remember at the time one of my friends selling American flags like from door to door right after too, and I remember telling somebody about that a year or two later. Like, that's kind of what's the word? Like you say, cringe. That's kind of like cashing in on a tragedy. I'm like, well, yeah, I guess
that's as American as it gets.
I know,
baby.
right? That's what we're built on, for better and worse.
Said we wouldn't get political. Here we are.
Yeah, I know, right?
Minutes in.
Yeah. Well, politics. I mean, it's
Marxism.
Just, the thing about the politics is stupid. How the two extremes have sucked up all the oxygen in the room, and it's like really very few people are on those extremes, and it just feels like we're more halved than we are. But
yeah, as what's the distinct allergy to nuance? We'll just.
All right, so forgive me, but I cannot remember what you played in band.
I played the trumpet. So
that's what I was thinking, but for some reason I was thinking woodwind. Maybe I'm getting you like Daniel Black. Maybe he played, wasn't he clarinet?
I think so.
Yeah.
And now, to be fair, in your defense, at Bell, like let's be serious here. Like concert band was not like the cream of the crop. It wasn't like the thing, like marching band was the thing, and like I was not a super I wasn't like a prevalent force in marching band.
Yeah.
Because by the time we got to high school, and got there, I was what's the word? I was distracted. So I had the band with Alex and Matt going on, and that was like kind of starting to roll, and relatively speaking. And so I was like really in the mix, like kind of full in on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the girls came into play and stuff. So I think it was.
I wouldn't know about that.
And I think I want to say I got challenged once on my marching spot, and I lost it. I want to say it was.
Oh, I forgot we could even do that, because tubas didn't have any. I mean, there's so few of us that I think we just needed them all.
It was one fall, and it took out 4 of y'all. It was
that's like, okay. So for those who don't know or weren't a marching band, so if you didn't make a spot, you could challenge somebody to take their spot. How did that work? How did the competition work? Did they
it was like Thunderdome, man. Like if we remember Mr.
That's wild.
In the band hall, right? Mr. G and his flask were king. But
it was tea. I think it was tea, hot tea or something in there.
Exactly. It was just tea. It was coffee. But outside, and like culturally, like the marching culture and the music culture were kind of like two distinct kind of entities, right? Like Mr. G was the like the musical force behind like the vision of the music part, but the marching and the outside and the drills and
Mm-hmm.
like the the culture of the band as a unit was all Pollard and Earnhardt,
Or not?
right?
Yep.
And it was very like I can't remember what the intervals were, but yes, there was a mechanism through which you could be like, you know what, this guy, I want to be on the field, and
Well, it's so funny. Okay, well, I'm gonna apply it to there because I'm reading to my daughter. She's 8. I'm reading like a young classics version of Call of the Wild, which is about sled dogs up in Alaska and Canada.
right.
And like that just what like it's the main character Buck like challenges another dog by attacking it and murdering it and clawing up the chain of command and the hierarchy. Like that's what I'm envisioning right now.
Yeah, and like yeah, it was like that, but like more acne and awkwardness.
Yeah, yeah, of course, of course.
And but yeah, you could basically, if I remember correctly, you had to be like, "Yo, I want to challenge X person for their spot," and you would,
Go
you
slap
would
him with
have
the
rehearsed
glove.
the
Yeah.
sets exactly, and then I can't remember how it worked. Like I think the person being challenged, had to like step out of doing the set or out of rehearsal, and then they would do your spot, and then there would like be like a tribunal or something, and there would like a judgment would be levied, and they would decide who was the better fit for the spot. And so I got challenged once, and I believe it was
I was gonna ask who it was.
it his name Jared? He was really tall.
Big guy.
Drove
Yeah.
drove a red truck, tall, skinny guy. I feel terrible because he and I were like we spent the night at each other's houses, went to Six Flags and stuff together. But regardless, was it Jared Roberts? Maybe.
Maybe.
I feel like it was something
Yeah.
Roberts.
Was he
but
our
yes.
class? Was he in our class?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And so I got challenged once, and I lost, and then I was like, I'm good. It was
I'm
like,
out.
yeah, well, I mean, I got more like satisfaction out of like just
Mhm.
doing the rehearsals and like the sort of like the camaraderie of everything, you know what I mean? And then I found a valuable place for myself anyway. Because I was in the band with Matt and Alex, and so there was a lot of PA related things. And so I don't know if you remember, but my job became I had to like wheel out and like man the soundboard.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
when I forget who it was, and I feel terrible, but in it was Exodus was a soprano sax solo or a clarinet, an oboe solo. I want to say there was
Yes.
an
Yeah.
oboe
Yeah.
soloist, and so my job was to like push the fader up on the mic and then like pull it
Yes.
back down. And a few of the other soloists, I had to do the microphone.
It was
stuff
wait. Maybe I'm thinking of the show before King of Kings because we would watch that and listen to it ad nauseum, even though we weren't in that show. But there was like a dueling oboe part in either King of Kings or Exodus.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah. And then the other one came in climbing up the
Yeah, and so it was that part, and so yeah, I was the microphone guy.
Nice.
And so, and I ended up like just being fine with that, and then like, outside of March season, we did solo and ensemble, and of course the rehearsals we were in there doing everything, and clowning around and band boards up and flying our mouthpieces around the band hall. Like I got the satisfaction I needed out of it. I was like, I'm not going to challenge him for my spot again.
Yeah. So did that translate? Did you do any theater crew stuff like with lighting and sound for any of theater productions or any of that kind of thing?
Not like officially, right?
Because so were you friends with David Louthan as well? Did y'all intersect at all?
And like
I think he did some of
I
that.
would say we were like adjacent.
Yeah.
But again, I've lost so many names since then.
Right.
Well,
he's so forgettable. Yeah, David's like,
damn, that's a blow up. Sorry.
Sorry, David. I'm kidding. We still kind of we've been talking back and forth. He does some woodwork. He does like a makerspace Dallas stuff, and he tried to turn one of my drawings into a table at one point, and then COVID kind of interrupted that. So we need to get back into it with him, but because he and Matt Harmon were friends too.
Okay, yeah.
So that's why I ask, but I think he was more the theater.
Man, those are good times, man. I have a lot of kind of blurry memories, but I remember various indications of memories, I guess, as Bob Ross would put it. You and Mad Skills, right? Just acting a fool in the band hall. Remember you in your famous khaki shorts.
Oh, okay. So I'm teaching at a small private school right now.
Okay.
I went to their January winter dance, and just being, dumb white boy on the dance floor, not knowing what to do because this is weird. Okay, so our school is mostly boys because it's like a small soccer school.
Okay.
And there's a few girls that go there. But so for the dances, they get girls from another school to come, right? And so it's this weird, like, it's that classic boys on one side, girls on the other. Because they literally don't know anybody. Like, 2 boys had dates. And the rest were just, we were kind of throwing them together. And literally, they were pushing each other into each other, like, from the groups. And so a lot of the teachers would go out and try to get them to do stuff. So I was dancing, and this song came on. And I started doing this dance. And I realized afterward, it was the Mad Skills dance, right? In which you throw your hands up to the side, up, down, left, right. And there's a TikTok video of me doing it. It's not very good because they're not framing me very well, and I'm only in the thing. And they dubbed it over with just the sneakers squeaking sound effect, right? It says original sound. It's just the squeaking. But I'll have to post it in the show notes because it's pretty funny. I channeled Mad Skills without realizing I was doing so.
And those are good times, man. Like, they were good times for all the lack of memory I have, right? Between going to Indianapolis and all the,
crazy.
being is in awe of the fact that the stadium has an airlock in it, and getting into shenanigans with my at the time girlfriend. I think we nearly got in some trouble. There was shenanigans afoot and sneaking out afoot. At the hotel in Indianapolis.
Who were you dating? She was in band?
Yeah, she was a flautist.
Okay.
I'd rather not.
Yeah, you don't have to name her. Yeah, I'm trying
she
to
was
remember,
a flautist.
but I can picture her face, but not name anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were many shenanigans to be had, and I think I just talked with, I think it was just Davis I was talking about that with, that it was, we went in November, right? And that was like the November after September 11th, that first Indianapolis trip. It was like 2 months after 9/11, and we're getting on planes and flying to the RCA Dome.
Was
wild.
It after?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember because I know obviously. What was it? The next day we were out in the courtyard. Were you there when we did the courtyard national anthem?
Oh,
tribute?
I don't remember that.
It was.
I'm sure I was, but
it was like a mini sectional, right? But it was basically like, hey, if you're available, come do the thing, and we all like stood in we basically lined the courtyard at Bell and like did the national anthem, and everybody was crying, and it was all very emotional.
I must not have been there because I feel like I hope I would have remembered that.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was like everybody or maybe it was like, I don't know, snare drummers and like the trumpet players,
because my memory is we were on the field practicing, and I think it was Pollard who came out and said, something just to let you know we're about to break to go inside and change and get ready for second period. And he was like, just to let you know, something's happened. It seems to be major, so just be prepared. And we were like, wow. We walked inside, and my memory is of a radio on a stool in the middle of the band hall and like listening to the radio news, not a TV. And maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe or somebody's phone, but we didn't have smartphones at that point, so it would have had to have been. So we were like, I don't
remember because I don't remember if y'all had like sectionals or if it was a Pennington morning. I can't remember, but I have the same kind of sort of.
No, it was at Bell. It was on the practice field at Bell. Yeah.
I feel like when I was in second period. I forget what class I had at the time. I want to say it was algebra. I don't remember the teacher. Sorry, whoever you were. I remember very distinctly the television up in the top, in one of the high corners of her, of the classroom, and this was after the news started to break, and then
we were all
it was
watching
the kind of classic story where it's like we saw the second one, right? It was very very intense. And,
it was.
I think my dad came and got me from school.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was like, "We're out of here, man." It was very
we didn't know. I mean, it's kind of like the first weeks of COVID too. Like nobody knew how bad it was going to be, what was going to happen, would there be another attack? We were in DFW with a major airport.
Exactly.
Very close
that was
to
the
us.
concern, right? That people were there's lines at the gas stations.
Yep.
People were probably doing runs on the bank the whole nine.
God, that was wild. I remember at Miss Treharn's class. She was our English teacher, and we had that. I think she wheeled a TV in on a cart. Craziness.
Maybe that was it.
It may have been. Were you in Peak English?
We both had. I remember the name now. And I feel like maybe we both had Trehan second. And yes, it was the cart. It was the TV on the cart. Mm-hmm. And I remember she was very emotional.
She was a very emotional person. She would She would like get authentically upset if we let a book hit the ground, like touch the ground. She would be like,
Yeah.
"Books have lives and personality. Get the book off the
That's
ground."
right. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
And she mixed Toby and Scene Harold. She would mix them up constantly
Yes.
and never could tell them apart.
Yeah, I believe it was Trehan, where, because especially during that first part of the year, we're all driving, and depending on if it was like a Pennington morning or whatever, there was that sort of like lag where you go home and take a shower after band rehearsal and go to school. There was activities afoot, on the drive back to school. So it wasn't too long into sophomore year, or I believe it was her. She like moved me to the front of the classroom because I kept falling asleep in class.
Oh, yeah.
For reasons. For very G-rated.
For very G-rated, in case future
reasons.
potential employers are listening.
Yeah. Well, I work in the tech industry, but
okay.
This is all to say, I do recall her moving me to the front of the class.
Yeah.
It was good times. But yeah. If it was like, how did we even fly? Like, did we fly? Maybe we did the
no, we definitely did.
Bus.
There's no way we busted all the way to Indianapolis.
Oh, that'll take it forever. No, oh yeah, sorry. We just had the buses when we got there.
Right. Yeah. Because what would that be? Because it's at least a 20-hour drive, I would think. 18 or 20 up to Indianapolis.
Yeah, it was about 18 or 20. I've done that drive a few times. Yeah, that would have taken forever on buses.
That would have been fun though.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, we had a ton of fun. I remember like the vibes. I don't remember a lot of specific things. I remember marching in that like just horribly maintained blacktop parking lot.
Yes.
Was it Carmel High School?
Yes, I believe it was.
And their like tertiary practice.
Yeah. The one they haven't used in 13 years.
Exactly. Right. Because they were kind of swimming in it at the time. They had some of the more flashy regalia.
They did.
And but yeah, I remember that was terrible, because even though I didn't have a spot, like I still had to practice the sets when we weren't doing full show rehearsal, and I had to do the mics and stuff, because how they were. They're like, you're gonna practice.
Yep.
We're in there in our chairs, like doing step outs from our chairs and stuff. So wild. But I remember we went to the mall. I feel like the next day, or maybe the day before, we went to the mall.
Auntie Anne's. I remember just guzzling down buttery pretzels. That was the best part.
Yeah, and I went to some restaurant. I can't remember what it was called. It's like, like Panera, like basically. But it was like my first introduction at the time to like soup in a bread bowl.
Oh yeah.
So, a 16-year-old uncultured swine. Like, oh my god, this is brilliant.
You can eat the bowl.
Yeah, I was like eating my tears over our fourth place finish.
I was happy, man. That was my main memory is that last note and playing it way too loud and off tune. And if you go back and listen, you can hear everybody cracking at the end.
Yes.
But just literally leaving it all out on the field and walking off.
Yeah, and it was there because it got a little dissonant in the end. And I do remember, because here's the thing, like the beginning was not easy, right?
No.
It's like, especially in the higher instruments on the trumpet side, it was not easy. And if I recall correctly, because I've watched the video a few times since then, the one that like floats around on YouTube, and there was a couple times where like, because the last note was dissonant on purpose, it was a dissonant chord on purpose, or at least the kind of climactic. There was a couple dissonant chords on purpose in the sort of climactic ending, but I know there's a couple times some folks were off in the beginning.
I was one of them.
I mean, I didn't do anything, right? I just stood there with frosted tips, and I didn't have to wear a
frosted tips.
Yeah, and they were just like, just look serious, right? And but even I was like nervous because, they had like basically since July of that summer before, like pounded us into like this well-oiled machine.
I lost a ton of weight.
Like,
I don't know if you remember.
You look great, man.
I was a chub. Well, no, I mean in marching band. I was a chubby kid at Hearst Junior High, and being in a marching band, like I mean, for those who don't know how intense Bell was, I mean, we were rehearsing for like 2 hours at least 90 minutes in the morning.
Oh yeah, during the school we had those 90-minute or 2-hour rehearsals at Pennington. I want to say it was like a few days of the week, and then in the summer leading up to there, it was 6 days a week.
Yeah.
12 hours a day.
Yeah, something like that. That summer camp
Starting in
was
the middle
intense.
of July. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. So I appreciate them for literally whipping me into a less round shape after.
Yeah, man, it was I mean, it probably like I don't want to overstate it, but I'd be willing to bet that there's several people, especially from our class, because like there was something a bit like special about the year, our sophomore year in band.
Yeah.
It was the first year of them going to nationals, and that kind of started like this even more tremendous run of this band that already had an amazing reputation. But like, probably it was pretty formative for a lot of us, I think.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I know it was for me.
Yeah. I mean, you say you don't want to overstate it. I don't know how you could, because just the structure, the discipline, all of the philosophy that Earnhardt brought, the pain of regret now versus the pain of discipline now versus the pain of regret later, and just pounding all these lessons into it. And then Mr. G, that first year, I mean, he was the spirit and soul of the band, and he had his downsides. He brought his downsides with it, but I remember a moment where with him just playing us The Sound of Silence in the practice hall, and us just listening to it right before a show. I don't know if it was before a BOA show or just a football game, but that was a pretty cool moment. And he was out there, but he brought a certain kind of lightning to it. And then Earnhardt took over. That was funny because Earnhardt had taken another position, remember? And then Mr. G stepped down, and they're like, "Hey, you want to come back, Mr. E?" And he did, and he had to go there, and because I think I had heard something about him giving a speech about sticking with it, and we're gonna create a discipline and get this program going, and then he's like, "But I got to go back to my bell because I've already done it there, so y'all have fun."
Yeah, and he was a character, man. I mean, obviously, for.
And funny, hilarious too. Yeah.
For those listening that don't know, I'm kind of backing up to Mr. G. Mr. G was like a cartoon character.
Mm-hmm.
He was, maybe all of 5'6". He was like, it was almost, like you see the cartoons of like the two people like stacked on top of each other, like in a trench coat. Like his suits, I remember his clothes were very ill-fitting. So a lot of times he looked like two people in a trench coat, and he just was kind of like disheveled a lot of the time. But he was so like, just when he was on like he knew what he wanted, right? He knew he had this vision. He believed in us as a band. He was, he's just, self-medicated, I guess is the word. And he was, eclectic.
Yeah. I guess he had tapped into something that none of us were tapping into at the time, and he tried to translate that back to us, whatever realm he visited.
Yeah. And it was what 2001 2001 and 2002, so things were a little different,
Yes.
And so, man, when he was upset,
well, I mean, come on. To be fair, have you ever heard of football coaches on the field talking to the kids? It's not like.
I think the only difference is we were in a big echoey band hall, right?
That's
so
true.
He could.
Yeah.
Was he the whistler? Did he whistle, or I remember what the thing was that he did to grab everyone's attention. We were acting a fool.
I think he did.
But
yeah.
Just the.
Well, and then his wife was also a force to be reckoned with. Mrs. G, she was always there and always keeping us in line and keeping kids' uniforms in shape. And
I forgot about that.
She was fierce.
She was instrumental. Ha, puns.
Get it? I see what you did there.
And then we had Mr. Earnhardt, who I think even in junior high he led a lot of some of the brass sectionals, and then I was a trumpet player, so my history with him was very deep because I basically started learning with him.
Because he would come to the junior high and teach, because his main instrument was trumpet. Yeah,
and so he taught the private lessons. He did the private lessons and stuff, and then occasionally would do some of the sectionals when he would work with Mr. Thomas at the time. And then of course we get to Bell, and he's like this machine. And then I believe he taught the theory class too. I took music theory. Only as the second semester.
I took it with him as well. Were we in the same class?
Probably, but a lot of it.
Maybe. It was only like 6 kids.
Yeah, it wasn't many, and there was a lot of like computer learning. So we would be in like the rehearsal rooms, either doing the theory exercises or various things, but a lot of times we were kind of by ourselves doing the actual theory work sheets or the app. I forget. I want to say it was like a very primitive computer application.
I think so too, because I remember planning stuff out. I remember somebody, I forget his name. He actually had a program, I think an Apple laptop or something, walking around in 2001, which is crazy. But he was writing music and it would actually play it back in the tonal, like reverse it. I remember he liked the inverse. I don't know what you call it. The melodic lines that one went up, one went down, and they kind of crossed in the middle. But
and arpeggios.
Yeah, but like inverse arpeggios, like two at a time, going in opposite directions. But I remember he in that music theory class Earnhardt taught, he was like major equals happy and minor equals sad, and that was what I would always rehearse back. And he had some adult from I guess administration come. He was like, "Okay, Mark, can you tell Mr. So and so what you learned in music theory?" It's like major equals happy and minor equals sad. It's like very good.
I want to say, like, I can't lie though, like at the same time, because there were so few of us, and like let's be serious here. You're sophomore in high school, you're 16, like
yeah,
you don't care about music theory, you know what I mean? And
it was completely over my head, almost all of it.
Everybody was phoning it in.
Yeah.
Like it was the semester. I'm sorry. It was the semester after marching, a huge marching season. And it was almost like an F off class, right? So we were definitely phoning it in a little bit. It was chill. But I have a funny story. I went to see Weird Al at the Bronco Bowl for any fellow elder millennials listening.
Bronco Bowl, where is that?
I don't remember. I think
you know what? Okay, here's why I'm shocked, because I worked at Grapevine Colleyville, and one of the professional development rooms in their center is called the Bronco Bowl, named after that. I was like, hold on a second, I'm confused. Okay, anyway, sorry.
So
continue.
It was a popular, like mid largish stadium format sort of venue. It held maybe 5, maybe 10,000 people. I can't remember. Indoor venue. But anyways, I went to see Weird Al. It was one of my first like live concerts ever. And like I walk in and it's an all ages show. And so you're awkward. You're a teenager, kind of like there's grownups everywhere. They were still sold alcohol, right? But it was an all ages show. So you're like, what do I do? Do I go to the bar and get a Coke? Like, what am I supposed to do? And so I go to get a drink and I'm getting my drink and I'm taking a drink of it. I look over and I see like this short sleeved Hawaiian shirt and like a necklace. Like I see the shine of a necklace. I'm like looking at him from behind, but like I recognize the haircut.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, hey, remember what I said? I was like, hey, or something like that. It was very informal. And he turns around and like, sure enough, it's, he had that Zoolander thing. Like he had that blue steel look. God, I'm sorry. That blue steel look about him. And he was like, oh, hey, what's up? And he was like, I would say this is like an intermission. And like, he might've been tying one on, you know what I mean?
Wait, what did you say? It might've been what?
He might've been tying one on, as they say. Yeah, he was having a good time, right?
Yeah.
You know, had his little, the drink in his hand, but yeah, it was, and you know, that didn't happen a lot. And he, at that time, he is, they're almost mythical characters, right?
100%.
The band directors, especially in the culture of the Bell Band, for anybody that might not understand. So like seeing them out in real life, even as, you know, even as a older teenager, you're driving and all this stuff. It's not like you're a child, but it's still very like, oh my God, they're a human, you know?
Yep.
So it was very interesting to see a allegedly maybe intoxicated-ish Jeremy Earnhardt at the Weird Al concert at Bronco Bowl, because he loved Weird Al.
He did,
loved him. Yeah, he was a huge fan.
Well, and I remember him telling us that the thing about Weird Al was the music, yes, and the clever remakes of the song, but one thing that made him so successful was his ability to secure the rights to even do it.
Yes.
And it was like a miracle that he was able to do that.
Oh, yeah, because I want to say it was one of his, I don't know why I know this, but one of his first big hits, he, like before he knew anything about the business, he sold his master, I don't remember what song it was for like $500 at the time. And then when he got picked up and when he was going to like record his actual album with some, with the backing of the label behind it and stuff to do his actual tour, he had to re-secure the performance and recording rights to his own song
Yep.
for like twice what he sold it for.
Oh,
It's like, dang.
I thought
legend.
I thought it was gonna be like 10 times what he sold it for. That'll be
No, that would've been
$10,000,
crazy.
please. Yeah.
Right. Like whoever's holding on to the happy birthday song, just like holding on to it like a domain name until it
Yep.
sells for 10x, baby. But yeah.
Like that cryptocurrency will. One day.
I'm glad I missed that boat, man. Ugh. I mean, like, you know, there's a FOMO for a while, but then at the same time, you know, I turned 29 for the 8th time last year.
Nice.
And
Same.
at 37, it's just, I feel like I just barely didn't hit the boat. Like I didn't care about it at the time, but like I look at it now and it's like, I probably shouldn't care about it. You know, it's a incredibly volatile vehicle.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like watching a slow
I'm still
car
not
crash.
certain how much damage it took, because the whole market went down. So everybody was, and then of course you had I forget the guy's name that was just basically, it was not a Ponzi scheme, but he was scamming everybody with his online company.
Are you talking about the recent one?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Sam Bankman-Fried. So
yeah, Bankman-Fried.
the FTX and Alameda Research situation.
Yeah.
I'm very like, I feel like my engagement with cryptocurrency is like the same way. It's like when you watch true crime documentaries or you like watching documentaries about corruption and stuff. That's just kind of how I watch how crypto is unfolding in real life.
Right.
It's like I'm more fascinated. It's like an anthropological kind of intellectual study, just watching it happen.
Yeah. Well, and then we should probably skip forward, because I do want to know what you've been doing since high school. But I was going to mention Pollard too, because he was no slouch. We talked about Mr. G and Earnhardt, and then you had John Pollard, and I actually ran into him at my gym the other day. He's doing more gymological stuff, because I guess he was into that even back then at the time, doing diamonds and I need to have him on the podcast actually. And
that's right. He did because he was very like, he didn't put a big barrier in between himself and students, right? He was very like, he held a lot of us as equals, even, you know, and he gave us that sort of level of respect. So, you know, even shortly after high school, and then, maybe 7-8 years after high school, when like Facebook became a thing, I was friended by John Pollard not long after Facebook started. And he was like full in on that, but also doing the DCI stuff and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess he became kind of legendary in the DCI world as, I guess, doing the commentary and the live calls.
I didn't realize that
on the broadcast. Yeah,
that's just something I never. When I hit college, I just coasted. Just went. It's like, this is easy compared to LD Bell Marching Band, Eagle Boy Scouts, and getting my Eagle Scout International Baccalaureate.
Oh, that's right. You were very into the scouting.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And then I hit college. I was like, wait, I don't have to do anything but go to class, and I don't even really have to do that if I don't want to. All right.
Nice.
Let's see how much trouble I can get myself into here.
Exactly right. It gave me too much responsibilities.
Yeah, exactly. So what did you do after we graduated? 2004, summer 2004.
Well, those who know me or knew me may or may not remember that I was not part of our graduating class.
Oh God, no, I don't remember. Oh, I want to hear this.
So, and I won't vamp on it too long. I know it's 9:40. Yeah. I don't know how much of a rush.
Oh no, we're good. We're good.
So
take your time.
Those who do remember, I guess you'll get a bit of an education on what actually happened. So I was removed from LD Bell in the second trimester of our junior year, the following year. It was maybe the third try. I can't remember how it broke. It was after the winter break.
Okay.
And so, I was a rebellious student. I don't think that was lost on anybody. I enjoyed my extracurricular activities, dressed crazy. I took Photo J, all those rebellious classes. But so I come back from winter break or Christmas break. This was after 9/11. So there was not only the terrorism stuff, but they went just zero tolerance on everything.
Yeah.
And so they walked the dogs through the old parking lot. And so I S you not. So I'm
Yeah.
walking down the hallway. And I was talking to somebody. I don't remember who. It was in between classes, and Mr. Montgomery, was he the vice principal?
I believe so.
I felt the arm around my shoulder, and he had that accident. He was like, "Hey, Chris," it's like,
Yes,
"Why
sir.
don't you come take a walk with me?" He had that little bit of that really thick accent, that southern accent, and so he walked me outside, and I was like, "You got to be effing kidding me!" And so I don't remember if it was Officer Woodside or a different officer, but the officer was out there with the dog, standing outside next to my 1994 Nissan Maxima.
Nice.
And they were like, well, old Patches or whatever his name was has alerted on the vehicle. And, 17, I don't have any rights. So I had to submit. And so it was discovered, my little...
illegal dog food chain, man. I know you ran that dog food.
Yeah, exactly. My little bag of tricks. The devil's lettuce was located in the vehicle, and it was just the paraphernalia, right? It was the hardware, as it were.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good look, but however, there was some New Year's related activities before we came back from break with my family, and some of those activities involved being out of the country and shooting off a bunch of fireworks. This is where the 9/11 zero tolerance comes in.
Oh no!
Trunk absolutely full of fireworks. I mean, like full of fireworks, dude. Yeah, and in the glove box, it was not a good look, and they just right. It was a whole situation.
God, I do not remember this. I was
I don't know.
It was buried somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how much of it got around the school or not, and I never really thought about that. But if it did, now anybody who was wondering.
There you go. There it is.
That actually happened, and so I got put in what was it called, AEP?
Yeah.
Where you had to go to like Central Junior High and do the the metal detector and the sweatshirt inside and out, or inside out with no logos, very like so like pseudo jail. But so you could kind of like accelerate your curriculum there, and so
get the hell out.
I finished most of it. I tested out of almost everything, and then some family stuff went down where like I kind of moved out of my house where I lived with my mom and kind of like went to live with my dad for a while. Not a great decision in retrospect. I won't get into it unless of course we want to, like, feel free to ask me about it. But basically there was some psychological manipulation going on because they weren't married, and so my dad got it in his head that maybe I should live with him now. He needed to teach me how to be a man or whatever.
Here's how to not get fireworks in your trunk, son.
Well, it was maybe that was the patina over, but it was really like a control thing, right?
Yeah.
And so I moved out of my mom's house, and he basically like signed me out of AEP, out of the HEB district altogether. And so I left, and then I went to it was Honors Academy now, related to the Youth Wave. It was that charter school that was in the Hearst area, and that's where I finished school. So I finished early, but I was not in the LD Bell class of 2004. If you look at your graduating class picture, I will not be in it.
Towards the end of junior year, because I was like, I don't remember Chris Hotze being in band all 3 years, and that's
right.
That's
right. Well, because I quit. I got out of marching band in junior year. I want to say I took jazz band.
I was going to ask, did you ever do jazz band?
I stayed in concert band. Bass. But I didn't do marching band in sophomore or in junior year, because the band with Matt and Alex was really starting to roll by then. I just had other stuff going on, right? I had a car, it was the whole thing, and I was rebelling. But yeah, so that happens, and the next, I don't know, man, maybe 5 years, 5-6 years, or very blurry. It was not the healthiest of scenarios, and so you got to imagine, because it's not like I went to like live with my dad, right? That was kind of like that was the story,
right? That's what you told the authorities. So that
it wasn't 9 months later, right, where after I had turned 18. like myself and my girlfriend at the time, a different girlfriend than the flautist. They were friends, but a different person. We like had our own apartment in like Bedford, right? And we were like kind of like trying to do the thing, but you know, our jobs were bad and it was not a healthy scenario.
Yeah.
And
Where were you working? Bad
oh
job
man,
wise?
I was delivering pizzas at the time. So it was mozzarella's pizza in Hearst at first. As soon as I turned 18, that was like the job that I sought, right? Because I didn't go to college. School of hard knocks, baby.
That's right.
But so you know, the next 5 or 6 years were very intense in terms of just like the struggle, right?
Yeah.
And so you know, you're broke. There's a lot of partying going on, a lot of drama, right? Because you know, you mix young people with partying and like being on your own and trying to, you know, thinking you have things figured out. Like drama's going to break out, and then
and you don't.
you know,
your brains aren't even fully formed yet, and you're out there.
Yeah, and so
making a bunch of decisions.
Yeah, so and kind of in the midst of all that, it was a very whirlwindy. You know, my dad went to an AA meeting at some point, and became reacquainted with an old friend who was my girlfriend's mom.
Oh, all right.
So that got really awkward really fast.
That kind of situation is a head trip because it's like, well, but we were dating first. Hold on.
Yeah, it was a whole thing. It was a whole thing, and then you know they were, you know, we thought our situation was this dramatic, drama-filled whirlwind. Theirs was even crazier. But you know, when the middle-aged partiers that haven't learned moderation, they're a whole another breed than you know, the wet behind the ears folks that we were. And
right.
And a lot of dangerous scenarios, a lot of risky behavior. I you know, you found yourself visiting various how do you say it, city-owned hotels for various periods of time. You know, you get caught with this or forget to get your registration done, and they pull you over, but you had an outstanding ticket for the last time. So it was just this kind of cycle of being broke and like partying too hard and you know, going to jail every now and then, getting into trouble, and just like thinking I have it figured out. And
well, and the bureaucratic system too is, I can only imagine the loops that you get caught in with that, and one thing compounds on another. And I mean, this is super small fry stuff, but I remember I got 3 tickets in one wham. I think this is my junior year, because he pulled me over for registration. I didn't have my insurance up to date, and there's something else wrong. I forget what else was. I had a light out or something. And so I scheduled a thing to see the judge to do the deferred adjudication stuff, and then they canceled that one because the judge couldn't be there. And in my mind, I had rescheduled a new one, and I hadn't. And so, so in the mail, they're like, a warrant has been issued for your arrest. And my dad was not so happy with that. He was
Mark Dye, the criminal.
I know. He's like, you're about to be an Eagle Scout, and you got a warrant for your arrest. I remember driving early before school one day. I was like, I'm sorry, Dad. But just that, I mean, amount and like, you know, just. God,
well, I don't know.
It's a positive feedback loop.
I don't know if anybody remembers, but this is Rick Perry, right? So, it was Rick Perry. I'm not getting him confused with the old singer of Journey. Anyway, this is Rick Perry was governor, and he had this scheme, which was instead of like, you know, most states where you have a moving violation and you get a fine, which you then pay, and then you're done. Rick Perry was like, we should make them pay for it twice. And so there was this surcharge.
I feel like he was high.
There was this surcharge system where for certain offenses, like registration and no insurance specifically, not only did you have to pay your fine and get all that handled, there was a surcharge of, if I recall correctly, it was $280. And this was 2003, 2004. So not cheap, that you had to pay, I want to say 3 years in a row, or else they would revoke your license. And I don't remember if they would issue a warrant, but they would at the very least revoke your license. And so you would owe that money to the state, and you'd not have a license. Now, knowing what we know about Texas and Rick Perry, we all know what that really was. It was like, we're going to catch some people driving without driver's licenses, and we're going to take them to jail. which is exactly what happened. And so people like yourself and me, we got caught in this loop of getting tickets and then paying fines, but then missing a surcharge and then getting pulled over and getting another ticket, but then
Yep.
having to pay the surcharge and the ticket turned into a surcharge.
Oh, and here's a
It was
warrant. And
yeah, it was eventually ruled unconstitutional is not the right word, but they got rid of it.
Yeah.
Maybe in like 2012 or something. But so yeah, there was a lot of jail involved in like those years following high school, and a lot of craziness. And then at some point, because the band with Matt and Alex had fizzled a few years back. There was a falling out between Matt's dad and my dad, and it was like a whole thing. And that's at some point when I was about 18. Somewhere in those first few years while stuff's still going crazy, kind of found a band, some cats through one of my friends, and kind of started my first sort of like hard rock kind of metal-ish project. And that one went on, and that became like my life for a while. Until like 2009 or 2010.
wow, nice.
So for about 5 or 6 years, I had this band going on, and we were taking it very seriously. And it was kind of the first adult band. And so that was very fun. A lot of cool experience there. Still a lot of partying, a lot of craziness. But
Yeah.
I was the young guy. Like everybody else in the band was, they're in their mid 20s. So they bring in this 18-year-old bass player, right? And so it was an interesting life experience, like hanging out and partying with like musicians that were also quite a bit older than me at the time. And so, those were really good times. I think looking back on those first, 6 or 7 years after school, like probably shouldn't have moved out of my mom's house. That probably shouldn't have gone down. But even though it was like a lot of risky stuff that happened, it's like you learned a lot, man. It was wild. But
I mean, looking back, there's no way you could have made any other decision. Like how old were you? 16, 17 when you moved out?
Yeah,
Of your mom's house. It's like
Yeah.
trying to weigh a 16-year-old with that kind of decision and not understanding, as you say, the manipulation that might be going on at the time. Looking back, and
yeah,
I'm just thankful we we survived, like literally.
I mean, and from what I understand, stuff was, I didn't obviously I don't have a monopoly on crazy shit happening. I'm sorry, stuff happening happening after high school.
We'll throw a little warning here.
But yeah, he was a textbook narcissist, and so it was all very methodical. It was very manipulative. But yeah, looking back, that was probably the pivotal moment and why stuff was so crazy. But learned a lot, played in some bands, had a lot of fun jobs, and that was kind of the routine, man. I was delivering pizzas, making okay money, playing in bands, doing gigs, and
so like how many gigs would you be averaging? Like in my mind, it would be impossible to make money in a band. But there's money out there. There's all sorts of gigs all over the place. Will give you a couple bucks here or there. Like how often were you playing?
We were playing. It starts slow, but when we were really, really going, kind of until that particular band sort of split up and a different project kind of split off of it with a few of us, we were playing every weekend, darn near. Not always locally, because that's never good. You thin out your crowd that way. But
yeah,
we were playing locally. We had a very decent following here, and doing a lot of stuff outside of DFW and traveling and gigging. But you're right. Like for 5 people, there's not, especially when you're not like business savvy, if that makes sense. We were kind of, it was very sort of like DIY, and we took the music very seriously, but at the same time, like we weren't approaching it with any sort of like entrepreneurial like mindset. Not like a lot of the bands and musicians today. There's a lot of resources available for them to do that. We did not do any of that.
There were no YouTube tutorials back then.
Yeah. So anything we made kind of just went back into the project, right? We all had day jobs, obviously. So everything just went back into the project for things like, renting our rehearsal space and making sure, that we had gas for the truck, or, we're able to rent our trailers and pay the people that were like teching for us, and people that were like roadieing for us. But yeah, it was not wasn't a self-sustaining enterprise.
Yeah.
But it was fun. You go traveling from place to place doing the starving artist thing, you know, sleeping in vans and
Mm-hmm.
you know, cramming way too many people in a hotel room and, you know, painting Austin, Texas red and stuff like that. It was very fun.
Nice.
And that was pretty much my existence, man. It was just various flavors of that up through I don't know, about 2012. And then around 2011 and 2012, I made like a career shift. At that point, you know, you're 25 and you're like, you know, you start reflecting.
Yep.
You know, you
Yep.
get to that point in life where you're reflecting, you're like, man, like, can't be running around at pizza joints my entire life.
Yeah. What am I
And so-
doing here?
Yeah. So I kind of made I had some friends that worked for this tech company at the time called SoftLayer, name drop. And I was able to, I got an interview at one of their data centers through one of my good friends. And I got hired there and total shift, like a total shift in everything. Like, it's not like I stopped partying or anything, but like I was making better money. It was like a better schedule, more healthy environment.
Mhm.
And it was just, you know, sometimes there's every so often in life, there's like a pivotal change of scenery that like kind of just kind of resets things and kind of
Yeah.
changes things for the better. Like when you look back on it. And so that was definitely one of those kind of getting out of the like dead end sort of like retail rat race. Like no offense to anybody who works retail, like mad respect for anybody who still does that. Like I know,
Yeah.
you know, our options are our options, but it was good to be able to kind of get into that. And that's still what I do today. I don't work in data centers anymore. But I'm still in the tech industry and on the path that kind of set me on.
Nice.
Yeah.
So what kind of work were you doing originally there, and what are you doing now?
So I was like a data center tech. So it was basically like the internet equivalent of like a mechanic, right?
Okay.
So you're at do you know are you familiar with Infomart? You've probably
Not
seen
very
the
much.
building. It's a big white
Yeah.
metal building with mirrored glass all in downtown Dallas. Anyways, that building that looks very old school and unassuming from the outside is just filled with server rooms. And so
Okay. Yeah.
my company was one of the companies I had there. And so we just kind of maintained them. And company would be like, oh, I want to buy 200 servers. You know, we would build them. We would build out the data centers, change out RAM and hard drives, and do power maintenance. Just do anything involved with like maintaining the data center, and obviously doing server build outs for the customers there. So it was very fun. You have to, you know, overnights, it's like two of you. It's very quiet, and it's like, are you familiar with the back rooms, right? Liminal spaces, the whole
Yeah.
idea of liminals is very much like that. Very kind of creepy at night, but very active during the day. So that I did that for, man, 3 or 4 years. And kind of after learning the ropes of the company and just the idea of like running big cloud data centers that are very distributed, you know, multiple data centers around the world, and kind of what goes into that. I was like, man, I'm gonna get out of the data center. My knees are starting to hurt, you know?
Yeah.
And I got into like solutions engineering and technical account management. And that's what I do today at a
Nice.
different, albeit at a different company. But that's still that's what I do today. I don't work for a cloud hosting company anymore. We do different stuff, content delivery network, very, very riveting stuff. But yeah, and just a tech nerd that, you know, lucky enough to get paid to be a tech nerd and
Yeah.
talk about technology all the time.
Yeah, that's my brother-in-law does a bunch of tech stuff, and sometimes he'll be talking to me about it, and then he'll like, dude, you lost me 8 sentences ago. I didn't understand any of what you said.
Yeah.
I understand what you were saying, but sometimes he'll get into, you know, he does a lot of payment systems,
Okay.
like kind of like PayPal, but different versions of just smaller. I'm like, yeah, I don't know, but he thinks I do. He thinks because he's like so in that world,
Right.
like.
And it's a weird world to be in. You know, I think when I first became a solution engineer and doing the technical account management at SoftLayer, which then became part of IBM, it was like that mid to late part of my 20s, and so it was kind of like you start forming an identity around it. So like, I'm not gonna lie, like I was probably insufferable because I was like I used a lot of jargon. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I look back on it now, and it's like the frog in the boiling water, right?
Uh-huh.
Where I look back on it and like I became just like the guy that used buzzwords. Do you
Yep,
know what I mean?
yep, yep.
So yeah, I was the guy that was on the phone and be like, oh yeah, we got to make sure that we leverage the synergy of all the components. And, I was like that guy, but I was very like into it,
Yeah.
and I I made a decision to not do that anymore.
Yep. It's
Well, like,
crazy how you get sucked into those modes of
dude,
personality, and then you look back a couple years later like, wow, how could I ever have been that guy?
yeah, you form your identity around stuff,
Yeah.
whether it's ephemeral, it becomes a part of you. Obviously I think I was probably working through some stuff,
Yeah.
probably,
Yeah.
some uncertainty about who I was. And so it was something I was like latched onto, and, you feel part of something, I think that's natural. That happens to everybody.
Hmm.
But it was, you became very emotionally wrapped up in your job. Right.
Yeah.
And
It's like
it became like
the
an
main part
unhealthy,
of your identity. It's the majority of what
exactly.
you do.
Yeah. And it was unhealthy. Right.
Yeah. Yep.
By the end of, uh, working at IBM, where I left there in 2017 and came to the company that I'm at now. Um, it was, taking your work home with you too much. Just very visceral emotional reactions to stuff at work, getting upset about stuff, being
Yep.
way too stressed out about it. I mean, now I have like a baby and I'm like married and like making my wife's life a living hell because I'm like
Hmm.
just way into work.
I hear that. Yeah, I
So
mean, you talk about
we don't,
jargon and buzzwords. And I was in education, still am, but I was in education for like full time. And that world's an insane other world. I had a teacher I was working with. She was like, Mark, I go home to my husband, and there's no way I could communicate what happens here. It's like the level of this culture being so wild, and it's just acronyms and acronyms and acronyms
right.
and PLC and STAR and this and this and this, and you need to do your B2Bs, and you got to do your project based or PBLs, project based learning,
Oh Lord.
and it was like a new one every week, and they introduce a new initiative every week, and they never went back and did the old one, like we never actually committed to anything, and it's just like a house of
So
cards. And I'm at the point now where I'm like, guys, I can't live this lie anymore, because the things you want me to do, like the amount of stuff you want me to do in one day and 1 week and one school year, is like literally impossible.
is it better at a private school, at a smaller
Oh
school?
yeah,
Because it
yeah.
like,
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in a cool position because I only teach one ninth and one 10th grade class, and they only have like 15 or 16 boys per graduating class, or students.
okay.
There's a couple girls, like as I said, but at the time, I mean, in order to, you'd have special ed kids that have IEPs that are still main classroom. They're not severely disabled, but like you have all
Right.
the special stuff. They got to make sure you have 130 kids, but you got to make sure these 6 need this and these 7 need this, and at the same time you have English language learners who this is they're reading and writing at a 6th grade level, but they're taking the ninth grade STAR test this year, so you got to get them up to ninth grade level as well
Man.
as you're doing the special ed. And then you don't forget to differentiate for the advanced kids, because you have 3 GT kids in this class as well, because we're all about differentiation. And then also small groups, and then also it's like, all right, I'm out. You say
Were you in
stress, and
were you in the public school system
yeah, yeah.
for a while?
And
Was it
it's
at, like,
it's everywhere. I mean, it's not. I worked for Gay Fun Colleyville for 5 years. Loved
yeah.
it. Great district. No complaints. It's the state. It's the top
Yeah.
down. It's everything.
Oh yeah.
It's dictated by law that we do all this. And
There's
everybody I
other
worked with
forces.
was, I mean, they were angels. We were all pulling as much weight as we could.
Yeah, and that's what I have some friends that are teachers, and I one of my guilty pleasures, I think, what's his name, is Daniel Siebert. He's a comedian, a stand-up comedian, and he kind of blew up on like TikTok and YouTube Shorts for his like teaching
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
content,
yeah. I know who you're talking about.
hilarious stuff, and like, man, it seems like a meat grinder, man. Like it just seems like it's just at its best, it's a bunch of people who just want to do the right thing for the
Hmm.
sake of
Yep.
like wanting to do something they're passionate about, just getting just absolutely railed by all the bureaucracy and just all the BS about it. And then, and that's not even counting what educators are dealing with in public schools right now. We won't get into that,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
um,
Well, and then
it's always been fascinating to me, like what that culture and what that world is like, you know?
yeah, and the only way to survive is to be the kind of teacher that sits back and does not like they get a bad rap. They're the ones that are stereotyped negatively in movies and stuff. But it's like literally, if you're too idealistic, you just can't. If you think you really do have to do all this, you can't. And so it got to the point where it was like, I'm lying to myself and I'm pretending I'm doing this all to the best, and I'm doing it to the best of my ability, but that isn't actually meeting the legal standards. And I just
that's terrible.
Yeah, and I mean, every morning 2:30, between 2:30 or 3:30, I'd wake up and not go back to sleep, just worried about this or that or the other. But
that's rough, man. Well,
anyway, enough about me. Sorry.
Yeah, I was genuinely curious. I was risking trying to get you on the record, but
yeah,
it's something that's very fascinating to me, and I think you, at least outside looking in, we've been on Facebook for a while, and we've kind of been tangentially sort of in touch for a while, just kind of watching from the shadows, and you definitely seem like you were in it to be in it, but just knowing what I know about, and for my other friends who are teachers and knowing what I know about, it's like, man, it just seems like such a beating, man. It's a shame, honestly.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I was going to mention is that the only way to really make more money, like to go up the chain like you have in a normal like way of doing a better job that's a little more valuable, is to be an administrator. And so you're like taking a really great teacher, and I saw this multiple times of people taking administrative jobs. It's like, well, now there's that 130 kids that aren't getting that amazing instruction that I've seen you do. And now you're like, now you're doing something completely abstracted and removed. And
anyway. That's and you had mentioned, it's a messed up choice to put on a 16-year-old to move out of your mark, but like it's a messed up choice to have in front of somebody who's trying to like maybe dedicate themselves to educating, but then like the incentive structure is not there, right? It's I want I'll go do an administrative job, right? And then and then that's
maybe
be part of the problem, right?
That's even more of the jargon and they get caught up just in the postmodern, kind of wordplay. Wordplay is equals work and goodness, and you're getting things done by. But all right, so let's talk about your baby. How many? You have one kid or two?
One.
I don't know why I was thinking.
Her name's Lillian. She's 8.
Wow,
she'll be 9 in April, which is crazy.
Mine will be 9 in June, so we're right in the same.
Yeah, and
the same boat.
Dude, you talk about something changing you, man. And I'll if I can get deep here for a second.
Let's do it.
I it's pretty rough around the edges, right? And you're a dad, right? So you know how it is. Like you reflect on the last 8 years and like maybe who you were as a person, maybe even after the kid was born initially. Maybe for the first 2 years of life when you're like trying to figure it out, right? Because there's that part of where you're like, oh, I can just be who I am. I can just be who I've always been. I'm gonna, you know what I'm saying? You try to hang on to that before you lean into riding the wave of and really like leaning into making being a parent part of your identity instead of your job, right? And so man, she's like an 8. She walks home from school now, which is crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
We just bought a house up near Keller. I won't say in Keller because apparently there's like a turf war. There's like beef between Keller and then the neighboring Fort Worth zip code, the Heritage Trace area. So, just for anybody
you're
over in the
you're
248 that's listening. We just bought a house over in the Heritage Trace area, and it's very, very close to my daughter's elementary school. So, she started walking home from school like this week probably. She has her own musical tastes. It's crazy. It's crazy, man. She's awesome. She likes some of the stuff that I like. She's very into Lego and
I got my Infinity Gauntlet right behind me. Lego.
Yeah. Oh, is that Infinity? I'm not gonna lie. I thought it was like a Gambit.
Oh, that would be cool.
I thought it was like a cartoon Gambit from X-Men.
That would be cool too.
I see it as a.
He was my favorite X-Men for a while. Gambit.
Look, only the real ones, like the realists, are like it's Gambit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The accent, the hair, the cards, French. The jacket was up there.
Yep.
Yeah. Cajun.
He doesn't
right?
get
So he was
he doesn't
Creole,
get
right?
any. They need to make like a Gambit. Didn't they do a show?
I don't remember. Like, maybe was there maybe like a cameo or something? But
Yeah, they always kind of have him as a side character, and then they never do it right. They never
no,
give him
he needs
justice.
like, yeah, like I don't know if he's like, if he's just, he's like Voldemort. Oh my God, I said it. Maybe he's like, is he like the Voldemort of X-Men characters
I
where you just
guess.
don't do a
I
Gambit
guess.
movie? Uh, but I digress. Yeah, it's yeah, I have an 8-year-old, which is crazy
That
to
is
think about
crazy.
sometimes.
Well, just
Amazing wife Becca, she's in there, and yeah,
so
it's
how'd you meet her? Your wife?
so we met at Youth Wave at the charter school I went to
Oh
after I
yeah,
left.
yeah.
So she was going there. We met there. We didn't like connect. It was like I'll tell the story real quick. Like we like kind of developed a fondness for each other. She was like one of the other people that like listened to metal and stuff at the time. And by then I had my lip piercings and I was starting to grow my hair and it was very that whole aesthetic. And so we became pretty fast friends. But I was still 18 and very awkward. And you know, I think she asked me if I wanted to go see a movie or something, or maybe no, I asked her, and we
Oh,
set it
I
up
bet she
within,
has a
like,
different story.
yeah, maybe, probably. Anyway, it was set by one of the parties that we were gonna go
Yeah.
to a movie, and then like I changed the plans, and then stuff started happening. I finished school, and then we eventually left, and we just lost touch for like 10 years. And then I don't remember what it was. I don't remember how we got reconnected on Facebook. I think it was through, obviously it's through some mutual friend. I don't want to use names, but so one of our mutual friends, I think, and we were just kind of on Facebook. We didn't chat a lot, and I'd posted some picture. It was like 2012 or 13. I had just like I'd cut off all my hair. It was just like when one of my bands had broken up, or it was about to break up. I was like changing my job, going to the tech company, and I was like just changing everything.
Yeah.
So I cut off all my hair, bought a bunch of new clothes, and did that thing. And this is the beginning of starting to use Facebook in earnest, or a couple years in. I posted the picture, and she like commented on it,
Ding.
and then a while of like flirting and getting quiet and stuff kind of happened. And then she came and met me. She came out to a fighting game tournament I was at. I went.
Wait, what?
If you're
A fighting game tournament?
Yeah. So I was also really into gaming. So I played like competitive Counter-Strike and stuff for a while.
Oh, okay, video game. Okay,
but then I got into playing fighting games competitively. So
wait, what is that? What's a fighting game?
Like
my ignorance is showing.
Mortal Kombat.
Oh, okay. Still video games.
So,
okay, I wasn't sure if we. Okay,
oh, yeah,
got it. All right.
Yeah. Competitive fighting games.
Yeah.
Very, very nerdy stuff. And so I was at a big major in Dallas. It was literally an MLG tournament. And we had been chatting, and like she came out to watch the tournament and like watch me play, watching me get lit up. I mean, destroyed. Do you know what I mean? And so is that a big game?
Or were there still fatalities, babalities? That was the best part of Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, and it was that game specifically. Mortal Kombat was my game.
Yeah,
was what I played. And
I was a Sub-Zero guy. Who was your main?
I played Sub-Zero.
There you go.
He was not great in Mortal Kombat in 2012. He was not great. But yeah, it was a very kind of like streetwise community. It was just very old school, like a lot of talking, just very. Yep. I mean, it was hazing. Just it was a fun, boisterous community. So, but there was other games there too. So it was the nerd energy was heavy. So, like when one of the few girls is there, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was palpable. So I'm walking through this place with like one of the few like proper women at this place. One of the only women that wasn't like trying to sell people.
Oh,
like,
gotcha.
Do you know
what
I mean?
Yeah. She was there to be there. She was, yeah.
Yeah, you could like see people staring. It was funny. It's very prototypical of what you might imagine in a gaming community. But
you may not have been a legend for your video game skills, but you were a legend for the woman.
Exactly. And so that kind of started the actual kind of hanging out and stuff. And then ipso facto, a couple years later, like we're like getting married. It's crazy.
That is crazy. How long you been married now?
Man, for a number of years. No, it was we got married in 2013.
Oh, that's
We were
yeah,
together
yeah.
for about
You're coming up on 10.
almost a year before that. It happened all happened, it was very whirlwind, very fast.
Yeah. Have you had your
So
10 year yet, or is it still coming up?
no, it's
this
coming
year?
up.
We're
So
about to
it
hit
was
13 and oh no, in
really
yeah, how many days? 7 days. Well, it'll be 13 years.
better. Like,
I
oh
gotta-
yeah, yeah.
That's
Well,
awesome.
that's awesome, man. Congratulations, man. It's
You too.
yeah, for anybody doing the math, we had we didn't know it. It was like we didn't know it was a shotgun wedding, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, but it would have been.
It would have been.
Cut it close.
Exactly. It was like right after we got married, we found out. Like, oh wow, okay.
I guess we can honeymoon
This
in
is all
18
moving
years.
very fast.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
oh man, it was a while. When we finally did go out.
Uh-huh.
Oof. Like we went on a honeymoon. We took a cruise, but before that, like our first night out without the baby, we went to see The Devil Wears Prada and As I Lay Dying and some other metal band.
Oh, I thought
sorry.
you were saying movies for a second.
Oh,
I was like,
no,
As I
just-
Lay Dying.
yeah.
I don't remember the Faulkner. I don't remember them turning that into a movie that would have come out there. All
Was
right, sorry,
Meryl
it took
Streep
me a
in that one
second.
too?
Took me a second.
Yeah.
That's greatness.
And we you lose something after not going out for a couple years, and when
Yeah.
when you go too hard in the paint, as they say, an old friend might just have to carry you out to the car. We were a mess and a half.
That's funny, man.
Yeah.
We I guess I'll tell the story. So we went to Disney recently, and when we went to Epcot, it was like our last day there, and we kind of did the drink around the countries because they had like little cocktails themed at the different places. But I guess Disney is really watered down and not very strong drinks. Because when we got back, I was feeling good. I was like, man, I had all those drinks. I never really felt even a buzz at all. And so we went out to a little brewery and had a couple beers with some friends. Like, let's go get some Mexican at that place we really like. And I had another margarita. Then second one after that, my wife didn't see me order the second one. She's like, what is that? And I was more than 3 sheets to the wind.
You
I
were
was like, oh,
you went full Texas.
Yeah, I was
full
like, it's been a while.
Getting too many margaritas while out of state.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And you come back and they're like, no, we know how to. Here's how you actually do this.
Like, we invented margaritas, baby. That's funny. That's funny.
It is
that you
one of
guys
the
went.
best inventions. I think the culinary inventions of all. It's got to be top 5
I
of
mean,
any
yeah.
food, drink, snack, whatever is the frozen margarita.
Yeah, it's like
God.
because I think everybody goes to that time where you learn that it was invented like basically out in Dallas,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But then you're like, oh, actually, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That would be something like that sounds very like I'm not surprised to find that out, And so, yeah, it's always funny, because I do the same thing. We go out of town, get a little too swerved on margaritas in public. Your accent starts coming out, right?
Then you run into a student at a Weird Al concert. It's rough.
Exactly, right. You run into a student at a
Full
Weird Al
circle.
concert. It just becomes very Groundhog Day.
Well, so you talk about having a child change you, and just to come full circle. That's one thing that hit me when you were talking about your dad,
Mhm.
and it's like I think about that sometimes when I'm not at my best as a father. I'm like,
Right.
man, she's stuck with me. Like she's got me and her mother, and if we're not, for whatever weaknesses we have, she's has to live with them until she's however long. And
Yeah.
you don't have that perspective as a kid. It's your reality.
Exactly.
And
I think that's the weirdest part, right? Is you reflect on, you're like, oh, okay. So now I understand, you can, for better or worse, you can maybe 20 years later, even it can kind of humanize
Mhm.
your parents. You kind of understand,
Yep.
but at the same time, then you realize, oh man, like I'm her world. Like she's,
Yep.
you know what I mean?
Yep.
And it can be very, it's not as scary anymore, but it probably will
Scary,
be
humbling.
again
Yeah.
in about 5 years when we start getting into those teens. But we're in a pretty good place right now. But yeah, it's very motivating, right? To do the best that you can, or um, the best that you can, but in a different way.
Yeah.
When it's hard to describe,
It is.
when it's for somebody else, because it's like so like it's part of you. It's not like doing something nice for somebody, right? It's like the motivation to like not F this up is
Yeah.
like so strong. Um it's insane, right? And
Mm-hmm.
they change you in weird ways, man. And I don't know if this happened to you. Um and maybe it was just growth, because I was, is very jaded, like can't be emotional, man, but like, like I get like teary-eyed at movies now,
Oh yeah.
you know?
Yep. Same. Yep.
Um and just very like, I don't know. It just the emotions are more real, and it
Well,
I know.
you're literally, depending on what stage of parenting, there's a lot
Mhm.
of sleep deprivation in the early years as well. And it's like when you're in that, I always get much more jumpy too when I'm sleep deprived, but the emotional too. I remember we were watching Inside Out, the Disney
Mhm.
Pixar flick,
Oh my god.
and I don't even remember that movie. I wasn't even watching the whole. I think I'd skipped parts of it and gone in and out of the room. And then I come in and it's the scene that everybody knows where the imaginary friend like sacrifices himself, and I am like
Just a
bawling,
mess.
shedding tears,
Yeah.
and not knowing. And it's about other stuff too. It's not just about the movie, like stuff
Oh
in my
yeah.
life going on at the time. But like, what is happening to me? This
Oh
is
man.
stupid.
Yeah, and that probably started for me. I don't know, man. Maybe 5 years ago, when she was maybe 2 or 3,
Yep.
and it's
Yep.
only gotten stronger since. Like,
Yep.
and I kind of managed to figure it out now, and I don't know if it's because you kind of like, you feel more in touch with everything. I don't know if you went through this, but like I've kind of reached a point with fatherhood where like I'm just like everybody's dad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and when I say that, I mean like it imagining stuff sucking or being not great for any child is
Right.
like,
Right. Right. Right.
it messes me up. Like
Yeah.
it's hard to
Yeah.
deal with. And then, but it's just, that sort of protective, sort of like
Mm-hmm.
supervisory, just, you know, uh, skill kind of comes over you. And it's just,
Yep.
you just want to protect everything, and everything to be, you want everybody to do their best, and everybody to be safe. And
Well, yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because just today, one of the things I did today was we have my daughter's school has a thing called Watchdogs,
mhm.
where it's like
Oh,
the Yeah, you should do it if you haven't done it before. You should
interesting.
volunteer. So they do it like half days. So you go for a half day, and you can volunteer. I think teachers can sign up for you to come to their class to help, but usually,
Yeah.
from what it seems, because I have two daughters, they go to the school. So I was at my youngest daughter's class for 45. Then I was with special ed kid for 45 and took him to the PE and did that. And then my oldest daughter for the last 45. And like just like you mentioned, I'm walking around helping the kids jump rope in PE. I'm like, here's how
Yeah.
to do it, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah. But it's not like it's like it happens automatically. And
right,
that's what I'm trying to
yeah,
convey, right? It's so strange. Um, like you can't turn it off, or I can't speak for you. Maybe you being a teacher, you have some
got to
muscles and
compartmentalize.
switches that I didn't discover. But like it's like being a dad, even I just have the one, but it's like if I'm around where children are at, like I'm watching to make sure that, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You feel,
everybody's okay.
you're like,
Yeah, yeah,
you can tell when like you're rehearsing. Like I just know if something goes down, like I'm snapping into action,
hmm
there's nothing I can do about it,
right,
just because
right,
it's so weird. Especially coming from somebody, where before I had a kid, he was very jaded in my uh mid to late 20s, right? And so I was not emotionally connected with the world at all, right? And that's a complete 180, right? It starts with the kid. You're like, oh, I'm like genetically programmed to love this thing. I get it now,
hmm
right? And then here you are, she's 8, and you're like, we're all just we're an emotional siphonophore connected to each other, and like it's so
yeah, yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
I don't know, it's very strange. It's hard to articulate, but
Well, but there's
you know.
not to get too biological or
Mhm.
evolutionary, but there's an evolutionary reason to take care of your whole community too. It's like
Yeah.
we're all going to help each other survive into the next, to help your kid and you help my kid survive into the next generation and keep this thing going because we're all one community
Yeah,
in
and
some way.
we are. I think maybe just barely, but like I get what you're saying. Like I the whatever like mycelium exists in the ether
Yeah,
we
yeah.
exist in that
It's a good metaphor.
connects
I like it. Yeah,
people
yeah.
into community.
Yeah.
Like I'm tuned into. I can feel it. It's crazy, and I'm 99% sure that a lot of that's from this one, and because
Yep.
they're like a the most brutal mirror
Yeah.
that exists, right?
Hold on, I'm writing this down. The most brutal mirror.
Go
That's a
ahead.
good line. That's a good line.
Well, they are, right? Like
That'll be
they're
the title
great.
episode. The episode of the title.
Yeah, you get to watch them grow, and but at the same time, you know, they become you, right? And whether you like it or not, they are the most like they show you the most unforgiving things about yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're looking for it, they will.
For me, it
like
was my dad was so great, and like feel so privileged to have. I don't know if you remember him or knew much about him, or if you ever came to our. I don't think you were ever at our house much, but
I don't think so.
In elementary school, he was like always present and always just volunteering. And
Right.
I mentioned Boy Scouts. He was, a member of the adult. He was go camping with us, and
Yeah.
he walked me through all that. And so when I had a kid, I was like, I can't wait to be just like my dad. I'm going to be as perfect
Right.
as he was.
Uh-huh.
And I'm sure I'm blocking out a bunch of, I mean, he had a temper. Like that's one thing I
Right.
remember.
Yeah.
And he would never get mad at me or of course, or even, physical at all. But he would cuss a bunch and lose his temper and yell.
Right.
And he would always apologize. And it wasn't he? I was like, I know. But then when I had my girls, I was like, I can't wait to be so patient and so cool. I'm just going to be the fun dad all the time.
Right.
and then the
man.
universe smacked me across the face with parenthood.
man.
It's like, no, you're not going to have enough patience for this at all times.
Oof.
And because I'm like, because after our second, it's like exponential in terms of the sleep and of the.
Yeah.
And our second one's a little more of a stink bug, and she's very very much into her mom and not her dad, and so
Gotcha.
she gives me even more grief. But
Right.
But no, I'm like coming to terms with how patient I'm not sometimes. I'm like, just
Right.
chill out. They're 8 and 6. They're little kids. They're okay.
Man,
They're allowed to yell sometimes.
Exactly. Right. And that's kind of what I mean is like, I think in the beginning, and this probably goes for a lot of people, right? Because anybody who has a kid and is honest with themselves can probably look back on the first couple years of their life and be like, yikes.
Woof. Yeah.
I mean, was not the greatest,
And you also can't admit to the things that weren't great, right? It's like there are a couple incidents. I'm like, I'm sure people have had things like that, and I feel really bad, but I don't really want to say it because I don't know and I'm sure everybody has those, but you don't want to say it out loud. It's like it just sucks.
And that's the thing is I don't know if it's like this for every parent. This is like a generational thing, or maybe it's just the intersection of our generation and the internet and this sort of like renaissance of like people learning how their own emotions work and stuff like that. That sort of kind of came out of the internet and having a more like where mental health and emotional intelligence became part of the zeitgeist because people started caring about it. Whereas like, I think everybody, like you get through those first couple years and then at some point you're like, okay, like I got I have to unlearn, and that's that mirror, right? Whether it's like you overreact and you catch the look on their face, right? And you're like, because you're doing what maybe how your parents did, whether it's subconscious or conscious, where there's just it's very strange because you're a full grown adult, right? But you catch yourself like doing things subconsciously that you swear like, oh, I should have control over this, right? And then you're like, oh my god, like I'm only doing this because this is how like I was parented, like, right? And it's very very strange. And so it's very brutal to see those traits kind of come back at you. And whether that's in how they react, a look on their face, or they're emulating you or whatever it is.
I've started just to see that. I don't know if that's something more recent for you since our oldest are the same age. That she'll start acting in ways that I act or my wife acts. I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
that's I recognize that, and I don't like it in you, but also I'm hypocritical if I say just knock it off because
Yeah.
I do that a
And
lot. Yeah.
I, I'm grateful for the lessons, because probably for like the last 2 or 3 years, I want to say, um, I've kind of felt like I've finally landed in a groove. Like
Mm-hmm.
I understand this mental health thing. I understand. You know, there's just a lot more about emotional dynamics and psychology and stuff that I understand a lot better now. And so kind of been trying to not only unlearn stuff for myself and keep myself in check, you know, like to get angry about something, like, okay, like why am I so mad about this? And kind of learning to kind of do that number, but then also like trying to remember to impart those lessons on the kiddo, you know what I mean? Um, so it's kind of felt like I finally got in a groove there. It's just, looking back on those first few years is pretty cringe. And I think, I trip up and everybody's going to.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's the other thing. It's like you also know you're gonna fail miserably in
oh yeah.
some regards. It's like you want to be the perfect parent, and then the years teach you, man. Sometimes survival is enough. Sometimes you really want to
Yeah.
transcend and teach that awesome lesson and have them achieve something amazing. But it's gonna be an imperfect trail. We're all just
I,
trying to
yeah,
not ruin it.
exactly. And I think it was like maybe Bill Burr. I think he puts it best. Um, it's like we're not uh we're not going to fix an entire generation's worth of generational curses, right?
Yeah,
But it's like
yeah,
if I can be confident that I know I maybe did better, right? And
yep,
undid
yep,
some things, and didn't send them down the line and didn't like impart my kid with like the same traumas
yeah,
or
yeah.
anxieties, then I'll feel okay about it. And that, it's so silly, but it was literally like a stand-up comedy bit. But I was like,
No,
damn.
God, no. Stand-up comedy is like some of the best philosophy we have right now, especially right now the political correctness has gotten so extreme. It's like really
Mhm.
some of the only real awesome truths come from some of these comics. I won't
No,
mention
that's
names because of, but I do
I
like Bill
absolutely
Burr. I
agree.
like Bill Burr. Actually, there's a dad in my Margot's class who looks exactly like Bill Burr, and I really want to go up to him and be like, Bill Burr, I love your work. I just want to. I'm sorry, I just want to say, but I don't. I'm sure he gets it all the time. So, but I don't know. Don't
He's
want to
got
be
like
that
a
guy.
Boston accent and everything.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
I think, yeah.
Just
And
screaming all the time at
it's,
everybody.
and you're right though, right? Like it, and I've often said this, and like they're kind of like the philosophers of our time, the good ones, right? Um, but like, I think comedy in general is, I think in the mainstream, it's still, it is what it is. I think in the kind of, zeitgeist writ large, but like the people that truly like, and I'm not trying to sound pretentious, but the people that really love comedy, right? The ones that like
Hmm.
love it for what it is, I think probably would agree. Like, I don't know, man, like it's become very pivotal, I think. And with the internet and the different ways comedic content can be spread to also help maybe convey messages that are different to convey to a large audience otherwise, it's like it's so important, especially right now, like you said. um and just the point, I'm trying to bring it around to what I was going to say is like the 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 shows and the people that like successfully merge comedy and like news and comedy and current events. I don't necessarily mean the Daily Show, but people like Jon Stewart who
Hmm.
are comedians but are also using that to talk about really heavy stuff that is
Yeah.
very current and very real. Is um, it's so very important, and they're like some of the only people that these sort of brutal truths are coming from, about
Yep.
that are really
Yep.
trying to shine a light on some of this stuff. And it's crazy to think about, right? Because it's like, is Jon Stewart and Jim Carrey going to save us from this path that we're down? But it's,
Dave Chappelle, Louis
it's,
C.K.
yeah, like
There's some interesting extreme voices out there. Yeah,
exactly, right. And it's
saying things they're not supposed to say.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, and some of them, it's people need to hear the way some of these things are presented. And it's crazy that it's the comedians, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. Like, the bards, right? They're in this game of D&D that we're all playing,
Well, and it's this weird space where they're allowed to be super not obscene, I guess transgressing, right? They're allowed to transgress because that's the joke, right? South Park is allowed to do things, and so it's one of the few spaces where there's still enough room and freedom, to say interesting things that aren't
for now
just like super narrative driven. I think we're seeing a turning point with the bifurcation of all this nonsense. But anyway,
I hope so, man.
Bring it back around to family.
I forgot where we were going. Oh yeah, comedians. Am I right?
Hey. All right. Oh, it's getting, man. We're at almost the 2-hour mark. This is
man. Time flies, man.
It does.
Time flies.
Well, I just wanted to say, I hope you probably wouldn't trade those years for anything, but I'm sorry that you went through such a kind of off track period, and we're I guess struggling, if I can put it that way, because that's no fun. My parents got divorced in 6th, 7th grade ish, and that kind of blows your life up to an extent, and you're like trying to pick up the pieces, and you realize your parents aren't perfect, and aren't that the life you thought you had is the life that's going to continue, and it's like, man,
it never is, right? And I kind of coming back to your point about I'm gonna be like, I want to be the best parent, right? You finally realize it's like who did I want to be that person for? It was me, right? Like I wanted to feel good about my parenting. You know what I mean? It wasn't truly wanting to be a great parent for everything it is. Ego. It was like exactly, it's still ego driven, and it's everything is a lesson, right? That if you're open to it, that you can help teach the kid early on and undo those sort of curses, like you said. It's wild because we all fail at stuff, and it's weird that through those failings, you can oftentimes find a way to turn it into a positive. At least once you become aware of the fact that you're dealing with failing better, if that makes sense, you can then start giving those lessons on how to handle failure as a to the kiddo, because I damn sure wasn't taught. You know what I mean? It was.
Well, we have such a wrong way of thinking about failure. Like nobody thinks about failure in the way they really should. Like we're so afraid of it because it's the fixed mindset versus growth mindset. Speaking of educational jargon, but that one's actually good. If you fail, it shows that you weren't worthy to begin with.
Exactly.
Would be the fixed mindset versus if you have a growth mindset, you fail and you're like, now I have something to learn from. I can get better next time. It doesn't prove that I'm an idiot. It just proves that I'm not as smart as I could be yet. Intelligent. I got to learn some more.
And it's very interesting how ingrained in us as like humans that fixed mindset can be, right? And especially when you get out of it and you can kind of look back, but man, it's a very weird way to approach life, right? It's like, oh, if I mess up, I was never great. I was just terrible the whole time. Throw the whole thing away and start over.
Well, I imagine. So I'm an aspiring author. I'm not an author. I'm a writer, but not an author yet.
Right.
And if you do that, I imagine it's similar to being in a band and trying to make that work. It's like you're just as a writer, you're just sending off these queries, and they're all going to get turned down, right? And if you get that one, you're the dog that caught the car. but you're just used to it, right? So I imagine
Yeah.
like you're just doing gigs every weekend, and if you're not famous yet, you're used to it because that's the slog, and you just keep getting
Yeah.
better and better. You go to every
Well,
show,
yeah, and it's
send off all the
exactly.
letters.
And because I don't know how long you've been writing. How long have you been like? How long has it been a passion that you've been doing because you wanted to do it?
In earnest for I guess 8 years, because that's when Samantha was born.
Right.
When she was born, I had a book. I had been working on one before that was like young adult portal fantasy that was kind of cutting my teeth.
Yeah.
But when my youngest was born, I had a talk with my wife, and it was like, I really want to do this. I had this idea and I'm still sending it off. I'm done and sending it off to agents, of a satire of the public school system.
Snap. Okay.
Based on our conversation, there's a lot of fodder there for that. And so it kind of wrote itself, but I needed the time. So I talked to my wife. I was like, what do you think about me being a stay-at-home dad for a couple of years? I'll work on my writing in between naps and whenever I can. And so I don't know if I mentioned this on the podcast, but I'd put Samantha down when she'd fall asleep at like 7:30 when she was a baby. And then I would write until 1 a.m. and then pass out. Now, I don't know how I did that, like have the discipline to do that, but
I remember the Facebook posts because like we were.
Oh, tell me.
Like we were on Facebook at the time. Like I specifically remember, like kind of following the saga that was Mark Dye and his hair, be doing the stay-at-home dad. You were very grateful, about the opportunity to do so. You posted about it often because I feel like either we got on Facebook right as that was happening or it happened right after, because
what was the hair? What was the hair? Just
I think you still had the hair that was reminiscent of just your tall hair. Your hair was kind of like naturally tall, right? It would just kind of stand up on its own.
I've never been happy with any hairstyle I've had. Right. I had a bowl cut forever, and then in junior high I slicked it back for no reason that I can ever think of. And then that kind of went into the middle part down the side, which you may remember from junior high.
Yeah, it was kind of like a curtains, girl, but it wasn't long, so it kind of bounced.
Yeah, and then I finally got something that was somewhat reminiscent of a normal haircut, which was just kind of like a 6 on the side and hand cut on the top. But it was very like almost what's like a flat top, almost kind of like
But yeah, I do remember that.
Now it's just leaving me. Now it's just receding slowly.
I think there's a few times where you posted, maybe pictures of yourself holding the kid or like being just up late at night and kind of you kind of created, I don't know if you were doing it intentionally, but it was like almost like guerrilla marketing campaign for the fact that you were writing a book, right? It was like, like when the influencer posts like a black picture to Instagram and that big things are coming, right?
I may have even done like stew. I would cook slow cooker meals that my wife could eat. What was she doing? She was working overnight, so she wasn't even in the house. It was just me alone up in this room with my beef stew and like eating dinner at 1 a.m. as I'm typing away at the store.
On a typewriter, like a hipster. You're wearing a cardigan.
Yeah, I've got my the other day, this is funny. So the one I'm working on now is a young adult like cozy mystery series.
Okay.
So it's like these kids at a school, and their English teacher is also the forensics club sponsor. But so he's more of like going around taking these kids on like solving the crimes around school, kind of like half Sherlock, half Miss Frizzle. But so I'm writing this cozy mystery, and my cat jumps in my lap the other morning, and I've got like my cappuccino right here, and I'm typing, and I text my Lauren, and Laura, I was gonna ask you about her because she did your photos, right?
Indeed, for the baby.
Was that like a while ago for the 1 year, maybe? Or was it more recent?
Oh no, yeah, it was a few years ago. I can't remember.
Anyway, I texted him. I was like, I'm literally writing a cozy mystery with a cat in my lap and a cappuccino and my coffee, and
you're like, I've made it.
Yeah, I need to go grab a sweater, my cardigan.
Yeah, the only thing missing is like the old house that you like bought, right, to like move into for the sake of writing the book.
Yes,
right.
Yes. Like I'm up in the attic, and used to be a painting studio, and there's
it's like dressed like Ethan Hawke. Like how many horror movies or like movies start out like that?
Yeah,
right? The guy moves his family into the 115-year-old house
to write his novel.
Exactly right, with the that has its own backstory to write his novel. The wife never takes it seriously. The daughter hates her new school.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like Many movies, many
Yeah.
stories have started out like
Shining, very reminiscent of The Shining.
that. That
Thinking
should
of
be how your book starts. Like
yeah,
a
meta.
like a
Yeah.
meta sequence about a guy who wrote a book about a guy who moved into a house to write a book.
And he finds his own book in the house, in the attic
Yeah.
crawl space. Alrighty, well, we should probably wrap this up because I still have your quiz.
Okay.
You have
Oh,
no
yes.
idea what this is about.
Okay. Let's
But
do
before that, I've got your 2 yearbook entries that I think the second one was yours. So here's what you wrote to
Oh
me.
no.
This is actually
Are
kind
you
of nice.
serious?
This is kind of yeah. So Chris Hotze
Okay.
in my Hearst Junior High yearbook said, "Mark sucks. I rule. J.K. Be cool." Chris Hotze, a little poem. A little poem you got.
Nice.
Chris Hotze. P.S. You got to do the T-Rex in public one day.
Oh my god.
And I did. I've done it. Yeah.
Oh my god.
I think I
Core
did it
memory
at
unlocked.
Pennington Stadium during a practice.
Yes. I remember
Good
that.
stuff.
I remember that now.
I'm
Good
sure
times.
I'm pretty sure that's come up in a previous episode, my T-Rex impression, but if not, I'm sure there's a video out there somewhere. I do a pretty sweet T-Rex impersonation.
I remember.
I
I
got
remember. It was
into
a
it.
whole thing.
It was the facial
That's-
feature was part of
yeah,
it and the body
exactly.
language.
It was the sound. Yeah, I think you did the noise too, right? You made a noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a whole thing.
My
was
wife
a
still my wife tries to get me to do it, and I do not embarrass easily, but I've started to get a little embarrassed doing the T-Rex. I must admit, I'll do most everything else. I have a Spider-Man
believe you
outfit
have
I
that.
wear. What?
I can't believe. I mean, it makes sense that you would, but it's from. I can't believe you still have that yearbook because I don't have much from back then. A lot of
Back
stuff
in the
got
old days.
yeah, lost in moves and various circumstances throughout my very peppered existence.
I've always been a sentimental guy, and I think let me see if I can find this real quick. I meant to have it open, but I think you wrote this. It looked like your handwriting, one of the LD Bell ones, but that was the other one. Anyway, it just said, Mark, hey, what's up, Chris?
Yep, that would have been me.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah,
All right.
I feel like there's an inside joke in there somewhere, just something cultural I can't remember, but man, that's crazy.
Yeah. Little artifact from the past. I don't know. I like yearbooks. I have one for all the years I teach too.
Yeah, it's wild. I feel so disconnected from it. Like I think I was saying it like in the first round of your podcast, where it's like I'm often surprised to learn that people from then, from the before time, like
I love that.
recall my existence. You know what I mean? Because I kind of like, I try to imagine. I didn't feel super present then, right? And it's so long ago, and I was so like, I had a very close circle of friends, and I was friends with everybody, but it's like I wasn't a super popular kid, so it's always crazy to learn that like people I remember like from then, like also like remember my existence. It's a very weird thing to say, but
I was talking to Rian about that too. It's like I never know how to feel. I never know how. What's the way to put it? Like we know each other, but we haven't talked in 19 years. So it's like how much. Yeah, I'm like, do I respect? Do they want to talk to me? Do they, am I respecting their time? Is it weird to ask? Is it like a big ask to be like, hey, talk with me for an hour or two? But junior high was it was such a small group, and it was during such a pubescent, like formative years, and it's like it's this weird alternate reality thinking back to those, like you mentioned, Stephen Darling, and we're just all people from all these different places and leading different lives and different tracks. It's like
it was an intersection we shared for a while, and I don't mean that to minimize it, but
no,
it is very strange because at the same time we're all in our bubble. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
we're young. Everybody's got family stuff at home. Who knows? Some people's lives outside of school might not have been the greatest, but like you said, it's very like an ephemeral, like just kind of microcosm just there.
Yeah.
Every day, between August and May or whatever, and then repeat the cycle over a few years, and there's a strange bond that's there, and then maybe especially for our generation, the years we left school, between high school and college, or for those of us that didn't go, between high school and when social media became a thing, there's like
Mhm.
this sort of growth gap that happened where all of a sudden, like we were able to reconnect with people that we went to high school with, and just kind of
Yeah.
watch,
Well, because literally Facebook came out the year after we graduated. Facebook came out because it was maybe a year before, but
Yeah.
when I was in my freshman year of college, you had to have a college email account
Yes.
to be on
Yeah.
Facebook because it was only for college kids at first. And so it was like we really were right on the edge of the social media revolution.
Yeah.
And I'm sure has changed us in ways we're still discovering and
Well, because
dealing with.
I did the MySpace thing for a while, but I didn't
Yeah.
have a lot of people like MySpace didn't carry through the beginning of my adult years and like give me a window into old high school friends' lives. It like when Facebook came kind of back around for me in like 2009, when I started, getting you on Facebook, and then like you said, we know each other, but it's been a long time. But at the same time, we've kind of like gotten to watch people like grow into like do adult things through their struggles and their kids and their successes and stuff. So it's weird, right?
Yeah.
And
It's been kind of cool though. It's been kind of cool
Yeah.
and weird. That's why this doesn't feel as awkward. It's just like I kind of feel like I've been voyeurisming you this whole time anyway.
Yeah,
So we might as well make it real and authentic and talk about it. All right. So before I give you your quiz, here's the prepared statement I give all my guests.
Okay.
But not the same. I make it personal for you, Chris. I make it personal. Chris, because of your mellow vibes and amazing spirit, I'm sincerely grateful and better for having known you. You are one of the hundreds of kind, generous, and benevolent people I know in a world where we need every single one we can get. So keep being awesome, doing awesome things, making some awesome music, doing some awesome tech jobs, being an awesome dad. All right.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And, thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
It is, it's like I said, I saw, you're the beginning of your like kind of late adult, like late 20s adulthood. Like I'm going to throw myself into my writing. And I admired that, being able to observe it over, social media. And then, we were kind of raising a kid around the same time. And yeah, just through the memes and the content and the things and the posts and the places where we intersected online and, gotten various conversations and stuff. I was like, wait, Mark, like you can tell you're real, you know what I mean? And
Thank you. Appreciate it.
it's, it's cool that, I'm glad that you found a sort of a niche, having your private school situation and kind of being able to balance that and like still trying to do the writing thing, as we all near our 40s now.
I know, right? Well, that's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm like, if I'm gonna do it, I better get to work because we're about to pass our prime here.
Yeah, man.
Although with medical technology these days, I plan.
With the advances in medical technology and my high level of income.
Wait, I missed the reference. What is it?
It's the Talladega Nights. Right?
Oh, dang. That's
Will Ferrell.
Yep. I need to go back and rewatch that one. Okay, so I was struggling with what to come up with your quiz because Chris is such a common name. Hotze, I couldn't come up with any puns there. But so I went through your Facebook and I saw a meme of Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Okay.
It was the Valentine because of the implication, which is a treasured inside joke between some of my friends and I, my brother-in-law. Just the face Dennis makes.
It's so good.
It's so great. So I have 5 questions for you about Always Sunny in Philadelphia. This should be good. This should be easy. All right. You watch the show, I presume. You enjoy it?
Do. Yeah. All
right. Number 1. What color is the spray paint Charlie has been huffing when he invents the Dayman song? I have 3 options. Do you need... Yeah, it is silver. Good job.
It's silver.
Good job. It is silver. It's like iconic.
Yeah.
My favorite is when Charlie just starts pulling out teeth and they're just has no dental work and they just come out. Oh,
it's so good.
All right. In Mac and Dennis Manhunters, that's the episode title. Frank makes Dee and Charlie believe they've eaten human meat, but what is it actually?
No.
I have ABC, but I want to see if you can get it without first.
Okay.
You can get 2 tries. If you don't get it on the first, just an open answer. I'll give you the ABC.
I'm trying to remember because it was either. I'm going to go multiple choice. Let's do it.
All right. A, cat. B, horse. C, raccoon.
It was horse, I think.
Oh,
Was it?
incorrect.
Oh no.
It's telling me raccoon. Raccoon.
Okay. See, I knew the twist was that it was like probably as appalling having
As
actually eaten human, right? Like I remember that being the joke, but I couldn't remember what it was.
My mind always goes when you talk about eating animals. Mine goes to Frank eating the crow when they're on that road trip. I ate the crow. All right. In The Gang Exploits the Mortgage Crisis, great episode title. What names do Dennis and Mac give themselves when they are posing as realtors? A, honey and vinegar. B, lemon and lime. Or C, sugar and mustard.
Oh, it was honey and vinegar, I think.
Yes, good. I would have guessed sugar and mustard just because that's a good one too.
It was the there was like the two-sided business tactic, I think it was. It was like their negotiating style, I think.
I need to go back and watch that show just analytically because I don't know how they survived so long and how they kept up. It seems like the premise would burn out after like so quickly, but
right,
it's just so good every episode.
Well, it's the premise is just the vehicle, right? Like it's
right.
I still don't think they've gotten to the stage where they're just riding on their own legacy. Like it might be one of the greatest comedy shows, if not one of the best shows of all time.
Well, and I think they're setting records too, like in terms of not in terms of episode counts, but in terms of years running.
Yeah,
they're starting to set some records.
Yeah, it might be the most important comedy show of all time.
So I'm going to give a runner-up. I mean, my top pick would be Arrested Development.
Okay,
you get into that at all? That's a great show. Just anyway, we can talk.
Oh yeah. Arrested Development started like they crawled, right? So that shows like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia could walk could walk. That's for sure.
All right. In The Gang Hits the Road, what fruit does Charlie eat for the very first time?
Oh man. Was it an apple?
It was not.
No.
And your choices are apple, pear, or plum.
It was a pear.
Pear, yeah.
It was a pear. Now I remember.
Right,
and he got one of the bad ones. That was the one where they were riding in the trailer behind the car, and they started a fire to keep warm in the trailer.
He's the best. He's the best character, right? If you had to pick.
Charlie
Day, yeah.
Oh yeah. He's Charlie's great. I think Charlie is the best character. I think Dennis might be like the best like written character, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But for his role, like what he's supposed to be showing the audience,
right,
and what he's supposed to make the audience reflect on, I think he's the best written character. But yeah, Charlie, he's the superstar.
All right, last question. This is an easy one. What's the phrase on the toss-up? No, not a toss-up. Softball. All right. Dayman is the master of karate and friendship for
everyone.
Yes, there's gonna be anyone, everyone, every man. Okay, yeah.
Let's go.
There's a Muse song with part of the melodic line that sounds just like Dayman. Like there's some in a Muse song that came out recently, and I can't get it out of my head anytime. It's a great Muse song, but
like honestly though, like
it's a good song. Like Dayman is a good song.
It had no right slapping as hard as it does because it's a well composed piece, and like I don't know, this many years later, and like I still find myself randomly humming and singing the lyrics in my head. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Not because I'm thinking about It's Always Sunny, but because it's like infectiously catchy.
It is.
It's very strange.
Good stuff,
man. Well, dude.
All right.
Thank you for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. This is fun.
Hopefully, you don't have to edit this too much. You know.
Oh, that's all right. Yeah. I until the summer, I'm just making these up so I can. I can edit them out, and it's something fun to do.
Well, I think it's amazing. I think it's awesome that you're doing this. I think it was maybe the first one that you did when you posted about it, when you first started posting about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you might not know this, but like, we kind of like I kind of like reconnected with like, you know, Lauren. We'd always kind of known and seen Lauren because my wife and her also knew each other, and They were both into photography, and our circles kind of intersected a lot. But through the posts about the first episode of your podcast and a few other things, you get kind of like reconnected with with Parrish and with Laura, and it's just very strange. It's I kind of see it as this sort of like nexus point isn't the right word,
catalyst,
but
maybe?
like
Catalyst?
maybe yeah. It's like it's kind of helping to like keep things like I don't know. It's maintaining a connection, at least for me, to the people from that time, and I think it's cool. I think it's a really good idea. I think it's very cool, and it is a very Mark thing to do. So I think it's it's amazing.
I take that as a compliment.
Yeah.
All right, man. I gotta get to sleep.
Me too, man. I appreciate it as always.
Yeah.
And
keep making music. Keep making music.
Vaya con Dios. You know what I mean?
Y tú también.
Take it easy, man.
Bye. Hey guys, before the outro, just wanted to remind you that the How the Heck Have You Been podcast is brought to you by the Art by Marker deck of playing cards. So I hand drew the artwork for all 52 cards plus 2 jokers. It's pretty sweet. Head over to our website, artbymarker.com, to check them out and support this one-man show. Thank you. All right, that was the show. Thanks for listening, everyone. Today's episode was recorded by Mark Dye. Our editor is Mark Dye, and he is also the executive producer. The intro and outro music was composed by Mark Dye in high school. It's really just me doing this. To support the How the Heck Have You Been podcast, visit artbymarker.com and buy some cool art. Thanks, y'all.